And now, live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., it's the Sunday Evening Masterclass. And now, our chief instructor, best-selling author and lecturer, the Reverend Dr. Charlette Manning.
Good evening, good evening, and welcome to Sunday Evening Masterclass with Dr. Charlette, where we will be exploring today's tough issues through a spiritually inspired lens. And I think that is so important that we focus on the fact that there is a spiritual solution to every situation. I don't even like to call them problems. There's a spiritual solution to every situation. So I want to thank you for joining me here tonight on the New Thought Media Network, where I am proud to be a participant. If you have not been on or checked out New Thought Media Network, you can go to ntmedia.org and you can see a list of programming that is absolutely off the charts. There is something for everyone. And not only is New Thought Media a network where we can live stream and talk to you in person or live, it's also a radio network with artists like Ricky Byers now, who is an amazing radio show, and a bunch of other folks. So it is a great place when you want to shift away from the egoic, dysfunctional consciousness of the planet right now and tune into, turn on to that spiritual awakening within inside yourself. So how about that? New Thought Media Network, ntmedia.org, for your watching, viewing, and listening pleasure. So I want to welcome you to this evening's broadcast, and I want to start out by, yes, there's a lot going on in the world right now, and we're going to talk about sacred and social activism. We started this conversation with Pastor Michael Mangus on his Friday night fireside chat. And he has every Friday night at 8 p.m. And we started this conversation from the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict, which was on Friday afternoon. And Michael and I started a conversation about it on Friday and decided that we would continue the conversation tonight. But before we get to that, I want to first take a moment, if we would in consciousness send light and love and prayers of healing to the folks in Wisconsin. Don't know if you've heard as of yet, but about a half an hour or 45 minutes ago, they had an incident at a Christmas parade downtown, parade where a truck ran in at 55 miles per hour into the crowd, injuring many people. They have not even broadcast the number of people that were injured. But there were families there, children, young babies and children that were there to celebrate the pre-Thanksgiving holiday going into Christmas. You know, it just is so sad to me that we have literally lost our minds. And I don't say that derogatorily. And I guess I should probably preface all of this by saying too, the views that I express here are my views. They do not reflect the network. I share with you, and I try to look at both points of view in anything that I share, anything that I talk to, because I've lived long enough and I've experienced enough to know that there are two sides to every story. Actually, there are three sides. There's your side, their side, and the truth. So sometimes, you know, we draw conclusions about things, and we look at circumstances and situations from that perspective that we are right and somebody else is wrong. But it's not that cut and dry. You know, they're extenuating circumstances in all things. And, you know, for some people, things may be right and to others wrong. And to some people, what's wrong may be right, and conversely. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and what the effects um, the consciousness of this planet is really having on us as a civilization. So, I think Bon Jovi said it best in his song, and it says, the more things change, the more they remain the same. And I think the lyrics is you're either running around in circles or you're running out of time. Everybody somewhere, either 12, 3, 6, or 9, the times they are a changing. We're here to turn the page. It's the same old story, but it's told in a different way. So, and we're going to talk, Michael and I are going to talk a little bit about this in the next segment about the effects of this verdict. And Michael and I were talking about it, and I said that I wasn't surprised by the verdict. And I wasn't, and for different reasons and different, I have my opinion and he had his, and it was a very interesting conversation. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next segment. But I wanted to, you all know, you hear me talk about Marianne Williamson all the time. She is my guru and one of my main teachers and mentors. And uh, you know, I mean, this path that I have chosen has only been magnified by the teachings and experiences that I've had through and with her. And I get a daily meditation from her, but also a newsletter that's called Transform. And one of the things that she said the other day when I got this was, it said, I heard Deepak Chopra say that humanity is at a minute before extinction. He also said that a spiritual awakening is our only hope for turning things around in time. And in the space of spiritual awakening, that proverbial minute is more than long enough for us to change planetary direction. Why? Because a mind that is awakened transcends the laws of time and space. So, what we may consider a moment in time is an eternity in the eyes of God, or vice versa, I should say that. A moment in time in the eyes of God can be an eternity in the minds of men. So as we think about, A Course in Miracles teaches us, it is a change of perspective. A miracle can take place when we are willing to change our minds about a certain situation or circumstance. There is more good in this world than there is evil. Unfortunately, the planet is reflecting the nature of its inhabitants. So it has taken a few energetic beings of negative influence. I don't even like to call them evil because, again, I've lived long enough and I've experienced enough to know that evil is a sign of fear. Course in Miracles teaches us there's only two emotions. You're either coming from a place of love or you're coming from a place of fear. And a fear, when you're coming from a place of fear, it is because you desperately need and or want to experience a, what's the word I want to use? It's escaping me right now. But you are actually looking for a reference, a source of reference that will change your mind about what it is that you're looking for. So when you return to love, you are eliminating your need to egoically consider or egoically defend a position that may not necessarily serve you. Now, a lot of people use fear or use discontent as a method or emotion to be able to minimize or negate the opinions and feelings of other people. And I think that's where we are right now. When we use words like supremacy, and we use words like minority, or we use words like, um, you know, privilege or lack thereof. When we use words like that, we are minimizing who we are and whose we are. We are all created by the same creator. We all come into this world with nothing, and we will all leave this world with nothing. Now, the privilege that we have in between that is your level of understanding. It doesn't matter where your circumstance or your situation is. What matters is what you do with it. You can have someone like Oprah Winfrey, who lived in rural Mississippi, who had an outhouse, lived in a mud, red road, red mud road to get to her grandmother's house, who, by all intents and purposes, had not an equal opportunity in life. But look what she was able to accomplish. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's how we decide to use this that will determine where we go and what we do. There's a lot of fear in this world right now because so many people feel that they are at a disadvantage because they are losing out on something. There's a common denominator in everything that's going on right now. All right. So when we talk about women's rights, civil rights, human rights, voting rights, all of these other things, the violation of rights or the lack thereof are coming from people who feel that they have an equal opportunity, or not even an equal opportunity, but that they have the mindset and the wherewithal to be able to put people in a box and tell them you can't do this because you're a woman, or you can't do this because you're 70, or you can't do this because you're black, or you're gay, or you're whatever. Who wrote the book on who is equal to or not? Now, the other thing that Marianne said in here, which I found to be quite interesting, is she said, as we relate to the politics of the time that we're in right now, and I think we should all understand from a political point of view, for the last 50, 60 years, okay, when we went through the civil rights movement during the time of Dr. King, and I'm going to talk about that in the last segment tonight. We talked about civil rights, giving voting rights and equal rights for people to be able to sit at the lunch counter, that you could not discriminate towards people as far as education was concerned and things of this nature. You had to fight for those rights because there was someone who felt that you were inadequate. And the Constitution of the United States once categorized Black people as three-fifths human. Yes, yes, they did. And the ratification in the 14th Amendment pretty much gutted that, but it was never taken out of the Constitution. So when you start to see that people put you in categories because of who they believe you should be or how you should be ranked here in this country, then we need to start to recognize that we've allowed ourselves to fall into that category. So what Marianne says in the newsletter is we are not just contending with forces and traditional political opposition. We are contending with forces that are soulless. And the only way to dissolve them is with the soul. If we put the power of the mind in service to a higher kind of knowing, a sense of reverence and devotion to all sentient beings, with a commitment to bring public policies as well as personal behavior into alignment with love, then miracles will occur. Of Course in Miracles teaches us that there's no order of difficulty in miracles. None. There's no order of difficulty in miracles. A miracle is just a change of perspective, a change of how you're willing to think. Now, embracing that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to accept any kind of behavior that is not in alignment with your thinking and your feeling. But you don't have to go in, you don't have to drop down into the abyss with someone who is trying to convince you that you are inadequate or you're beneath them or any of that. And it's funny, I love to tell stories. So I think I have a quick moment to tell a story. Um, One of the stories, I used to live in Alexandria, Virginia, and I think I shared with you that when I was growing up in Alexandria in the early 50s, there were colored and white bathrooms downtown on King Street. G.C. Murphy and Company, which was a 5 and 10 cent store, had colored and white bathrooms. And my girlfriend and I wanted to see what the difference was in the white bathroom and the black bath or the colored bathroom, which we were called at the time. And we snuck in there, snuck in there pretending that we couldn't read. And we snuck in there to see, and there was no difference. There was absolutely, and they were both filthy. There was trash on the floor and all of that. But the point is that we thought, because it was a white bathroom, that for white people, that it would be something spectacular, and it was not. So when we think about how different we are, or how different they are attempting to make us feel we are, we have to realize that we were all created by the same creator. So I'm getting that sign that it's time for us to take a break. So I want to well, we'll come back and talk about that. We're going to take a little break because we've got to pay some bills. And I just want to thank you for joining us for Sunday Evening Masterclass with Dr. Charlette here on the New Thought Media Network. We'll be
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience, or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.
Welcome back. This is Dr. Charlette on New Thought Media Network, and we're glad to have you back. I have, as I said earlier in the segment, I had a conversation. I was on Michael's show on Friday evening. It's called Friday Evening Fireside Chat. And we started this conversation, and we got really deep. We really needed more than an hour on Friday, didn't we?
So that was really interesting. Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
But Diego was saying, "Listen, I have my pet pig, Winston, needs to go out, and I need to go to the restroom. So you guys are done at 9:00. So that's what he told us."
That's right. So that's it. It isn't even a wrap up. You don't even have a choice. I mean, he will cut you off if you're not ready.
Absolutely, yes.
But I thought it was so important and so relative, from our metaphysical as well as spiritual point of view, to look at the circumstances and situations and to recognize that this isn't something new. It's an experience that another generation is having. But we've been through this before, so it's a little different because we are able to see things that were able to be hidden before. So have you gotten any other word? I know you're in the back of the house. If you got any more word on what happened with the truck that ran into the crowd and
Yeah,
anything?
let me. I had CNN before. Hold on here. We'll go to
Mhm.
CNN. Let's see here.
Now I tell you, women and babies are just that's my thing, and
Okay,
I'm
so this
story.
is this is what we know so far here. Hold on here to make sure that.
After pioneering photographic film, we made it our mission.
Okay, we need to take that out. All right. So the headline here is multiple injured after car runs through Wisconsin holiday parade. This is what we know so far. This is from CNN. More than 20 people were injured after an SUV ran through. Uh, I'm going to probably butcher this name up. A Washika, probably close enough. Wisconsin Christmas parade Sunday night.
Mhm.
Officials have recovered the suspect's vehicle and they're looking into a person of interest. And law enforcement officials are expected to give an update in just a few moments on the incident. So that's the latest from CNN right now.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's just keep them in our thoughts and our prayers because, again, as I said, with everything that's going on in the world, the first thing they went to was, did this have something to do with the Rittenhouse? I mean, we automatically shift into that consciousness, that negative consciousness, and again, you and I and have a similar feeling around, and I you put that in quotation marks because I really do try and look at it from both perspectives, and I just wanted to know, in the last 48 hours, the reason that we said that we were going to continue to talk about this tonight was we wanted to get a chance for the dust to settle a little bit and see what was happening. So how are you feeling about that? What do you think about what's going on since we first started talking about this on Friday night?
Well, I feel that we still need to speak up and speak out. It seems that the verdict gives individuals or empowers them to go ahead and to be vigilantes. And as I've been talking with people on Facebook, I said, that's why we have the police. Okay. And then the and then the comment came back, well, you wanted to fund the police. And I said, no. I said, not no. I said that was one of the options that was brought up. But what's going to need to happen here is a complete reset on how we do policing in this country. And again, my prayers are for our men and women in blue. I support them
Absolutely.
completely.
Yeah.
And that we need to get some bad apples out of it.
Yes.
So as far as with the Kyle Rittenhouse trial and the acquittal, again, the odds were stacked against us as far as getting any type of sentence from that.
Yeah.
I mean, you had a judge who has been known to take matters into his own hands. You had, again, I think it was mostly a white jury that was there.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of factors I think that we have to consider, and that I really want us all to not be discouraged about it. That we need to keep speaking up and speaking out. We need not to be afraid when we go out and protest. They had one here, the story here I have here on AP. It says, in Kenosha and beyond, guns are becoming more common on U.S. streets. And the The byline was, as Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted in 2 killings that he said were self-defense, armed citizens patrolled the streets near the Wisconsin courthouse with guns in plain view.
But see,
Now,
this.
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that we, that we're turning into a country of vigilantes, and again, we need all the people who are of the light, people who are enlightened, need to speak up and speak out about this. And again, as I was explaining to the people on Facebook, is that in my congregation in Akron at one time, we had 2 people who were specifically trained and who were had concealed carry, and they were packing heat in our service. And so why was that? It's because we had problems before. We, as far as with New Thought churches, we're a soft target. So at that time, I went ahead and I just said, not a problem. Now, again, these gentlemen were specifically trained. Again, they spent time on firing ranges on a consistent basis. I knew that I felt safe with them. They weren't just going to pull their gun out if something happened. So again, I'm not anti-gun. What I am is this craziness with the assault rifles. And again, people carrying, and I tried to explain this to the people on Facebook today. Yeah, I know. You think I'm crazy for.
Well, but I think that what's important to recognize, and I look at Kyle Rittenhouse. Now, first of all, let me say, all right, I'm a mother. All right. I have 2 sons that grew up in a predominantly white environment. So a lot of, they went through a lot of stuff as kids. And my husband and I had to talk with our sons, as every Black family cringes when we think about having to have that conversation. But in reinforcing that, we would rather have you come home alive than for you to engage in a conflict that you cannot win. So when we think about, I think about the upbringing of Kyle Rittenhouse, and I think about and honestly, this child's life is never going to be the same. He is 17 or just turned 18 years old. His brain is not even fully developed. And I'm not excusing the bad behavior, because he clearly, his mom drove him there. Someone got that gun for him. And just because you feel like, and the police applauded him, gave him water while he's walking down the street, thanked him for being there, and all of that. So when you excuse bad behavior, you're really giving people permission to do that. Now, does that make it right? So let's look at it from a spiritual, metaphysical point of view, and how we can look at this circumstance in this situation and find. I always use, and I shouldn't say always, but I use this analogy because I think it can be easily understood. There are 4 stages of cancer. All right. When you get I'm going to use a woman as you get a lump on your breast. You may feel some discomfort from that lump, but you ignore it because it's not, you just think maybe I bumped into something, I got a little bruise and it'll go away. But as that lump continues to grow and becomes more, irritating, you finally go to the doctor. When you get to the doctor, you may be at stage 3 or stage 4. Then chemotherapy you have to start talking about healing options. Okay, and so we start talking about chemotherapy and radiation. What do chemotherapy and radiation do?
Well, they kill. That's what they do.
Kill the dis-ease that's in the body. But you have to get to that point, all right, because it hasn't been, it has to be exposed before it can be treated. And I think as we are evolving as a consciousness, the planet, we call this planet Earth, Mother, the mother planet, Mother Nature. We're talking about all of these things. We're injecting into this planet poison that is turning the planet into a cancerous organism, not only on the inside, but on the outside. The energy of the planet is also shifting us into a consciousness where we're suspect of everything.
Right.
Okay. Now, cowboys, carried weapons back in the wild, wild. Everybody carried a weapon then. Now, they didn't just start buying guns. They've been buying and stockpiling weapons and ammunition for years now. Back in David Koresh's days. Remember that? The Moonies
Yes.
in Philadelphia. So none of this is new stuff. It's
Well,
just recycled stuff.
and what happened, especially during the Obama administration, the people of gun rights, they said, well, Obama's going to take away your guns.
Mm-hmm.
And to my knowledge, there was not one gun that was confiscated during that time. I just wanted to talk about the whole idea of, again, so what do we do spiritually? What do we do metaphysically? And I went ahead and I read from on Friday evening from my mentor, Dr. Tom Sanner, about forgiveness. And again, forgiveness does not mean that we go ahead and dismiss or condone the behavior. What forgiveness is that we are able to get beyond of what you said, the egoic nature that we usually are, and we're able then to see God or spirit within each and every person, including Kyle Rittenhouse.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot make, again, this is my opinion, we cannot make an enemy of other people. We cannot make the enemy the families. We cannot make the enemy the attorneys, the people who funded Kyle Rittenhouse's defense, of which, believe me, there was over $500,000 that was put into a fund for Mr. Rittenhouse's defense. Now, the other thing too is that, and so forgiveness, we need to send love. We need to know, again, the truth, which is, again, peace and love in the situation. That does not mean that we stop going out into the streets. That does not mean that we stop demanding for, some kind of gun reform. That does not mean that. What that means is that we keep the hate out of our own hearts. So, and that's what Jesus taught. He says, how many times should I forgive? 70 times 7. Again, that was not meant to be 490 times. That was meant to be infinity, taking into the biblical language.
Right. That's right. Well, and you use Jesus, and I mean, you think in terms of those people that were most affected by having a love consciousness and what happened to them. Jesus being one key element. Gandhi, you look at Dr. King, you look at the 27 years that Nelson Mandela spent in prison. You look at the two men that were just exonerated after 65 years from Malcolm X's. I mean, we start to look at all the things, and what I get, the thread from all of this, I get peace will always prevail.
Yes.
Love will always cast out hate. Light will always cast out darkness. So our job as truth students is to make sure that we have ourselves deeply rooted in the faith that we believe in. The trust and trust me. Marianne used to say, God looks at somebody, I always say, I use 45. He says, God looks at 45 and says, I like him. Because that's his creation. So when we think about it, we were given free will. And as a result of our free will, we can choose we can choose to move into a direction of love, or we can move into a direction of fear. A Course in Miracles teaches us only love is real. Everything else is an illusion. And the illusion is what we create up in here. If I allow you to call me a minority simply because I'm a Black woman, or I can call you superior, a supremacist, because you are a white male. These are titles that we have placed upon ourselves. I've never allowed anyone to call me a minority or my children that. And I said, if anybody else, Black people will call themselves minorities.
Yes,
There's only one, I'm only subservient to one being, one power, one presence in the universe. And that is the God that created me. There's no one that's above or below any of that. So when and as you said, we have to stand in that truth. Now you can think what you want to think. And by the way, there have been many people, my ancestors, your ancestors included, that have had to sacrifice their lives in order for us to have the freedoms that we have. So there will be another Kyle. There will be another. I mean, until we return to the consciousness of love that God, and by the way, we will. I may not get to see it. You may not get to see it, but I never thought I'd see a Black president, and I saw that. So I believe in the power and the presence of the Holy Spirit. I believe that if I can hold the thought of consciousness to love in spite of somebody else's, somebody else's behavior. Mother Teresa said, how can you work with these people with these contagious, all of these life-threatening contagious diseases? And she said, because I see the face of my beloved in everyone I help. So if you can see the face of God in others, then God will be the face you respond to. And I know you're telling me it's time to take a break.
No, I was going to say something as far as...
Okay, please.
Well, especially with the acquittal, is that we have to all understand that, again, as you were talking about love or fear, that people are trying to say, okay, if you're out in the streets, then, we can go ahead and we can have vigilantes out there. Mm-hmm. And so again, that they're trying to threaten peaceful protests. Mm-hmm. Now, and again, we'll go back to last year with the Black Lives Matter. So I had a young man in my congregation who's a chaplain at one of the local hospitals there. He was out in the streets and he witnessed the police car being burned. Mm-hmm. And it was done mm-hmm. by a young white man. Mm-hmm. And there were people around that were saying to this young man, you're not helping our cause here.
Right.
At all. So again, the reason I bring this up is that there were reports of violence, especially in Portland, here in the past few days. Mm-hmm. There are some people, again, who are not of the right mind, that what they're doing is they're trying to cause more chaos.
Instigators.
Yes, by going out there and with people who are peacefully protesting, going ahead and smashing windows and doing all the crazy stuff, and that the protests have nothing to do with that. Again, it just gives these individuals a platform to go ahead and start doing it. So I think that one of the things that I tell folks especially when you go out and protest, is make sure that you have your camera, make sure that you have your phone with you. If you see any of that, you need to take pictures of that and show them to the local police department. These people, again, especially like last summer, they're saying, well, it was all the Black Lives Matter that... No, it was not. It was this very tiny group of instigators, as you call them, going out there and causing trouble. It wasn't the majority of the marchers. So again, we have to turn these people in. You know, if they're out there causing trouble, or if they're out there smashing windows and doing all that crazy stuff, that's not going to help us.
And I completely agree with you. And there were incidences right here when they had the protesting here in the District of Columbia, where they tried to start some problems, and the protesters immediately said, "You got to go. You can't be a part of this if you're going to behave like that," because that's when they start. All they need is an excuse to be able to go and instigate or start trouble. So when you see that there were 500 National Guardsmen on standby in Kenosha for waiting for this verdict, where were the National Guard on January the 6th? That's all I'm saying. Let's play the game by the same set of rules. And
well,
so
we all know.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we all know, unfortunately, is that everything was race related. Again, that they had, again, that if they, and the same thing goes with, again, Kyle Rittenhouse, is that if that was a 17-year-old black man who
with
went
an
down
AR-15,
there,
he wouldn't have made it to the corner.
He wouldn't have made it to court.
He wouldn't have made it to the.
See, and so that's what myself and you and other people are saying, is that we don't need to defund the police. What we need to do is reform the police, is to demand reform. That was another word that they just took the ball and ran with. You know what I'm saying? And no one ever even felt like that should be the case. But, it's, like you can get a hook or something and you just run away with it. So we're going to take a quick break because you're giving me the eye. I see you. And, hey, listen, we got bills to pay.
And we got bills to pay. So we're going to take a quick break.
Okay. So.
Okay. When we come back.
Do your outro. Please.
Okay. Do my outro. Okay. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to share excerpts from Dr. King's letter from the Birmingham jail. If you think things have really changed, you wait till you hear excerpts of this. So I want to thank you for joining us this evening on Good Sunday Evening Masterclass with Dr. Charlette here on the New Thought Media Network. We'll be right back.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And Suze Ajin, thank you for your very generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferland Foundation for your generous technology grant. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.
Welcome back. Welcome back. So, we've been talking about this evening the spiritual component and the sacred activism and social activism. You know, religion has always played a significant role in and not just religion, but spirituality has always played a significant role in the politics of any nation. You know, they say that we should separate church and state, but we really don't. In the Congress, in the halls of Congress and in the Senate, they don't begin any session without a invocation from a minister. There is always a prayer before you begin any act in Congress or in the Senate. So you're not separating yourself. You're asking God. Now, some people use religion in order to advance their agendas because they can take scripture and make scripture and turn scripture into anything that they want to. But Jesus, for all intents and purposes, we will use Jesus as an example. Moses is another great example. But Jesus was radical. Jesus believed that the church was using, the synagogue was using its power in order to control and manipulate. So Jesus is like, no, we're not going to do that. So what happened was that they wanted to silence him, however it was that they could. But yet and still, Jesus took his show, for lack of a better word, on the road to talk about the importance of standing up for your sacred rights as well as your civil and human rights. So I said as we started out today that this is not anything new for us. And as Black people, and particularly I'm 70 years old, having grown up in not the deep South, but the South, nonetheless, right here in Alexandria, Virginia, in the state of Virginia, where I grew up in the midst of segregation, that my first year in high school, 1965, was the first year that they integrated the schools in Alexandria, Virginia. But one of the things that I found that was so key is that I always like to go back and see, have we ever experienced this before? And you know, I'm a Tony Robbins coach, and I went to Tony Robbins school and learned the different strategies. And one of the things that Tony teaches us is that there is very little. There's nothing that has never been done before. You may tweak it and change it into, but if you search, and Dr. Google is my friend, if you search and ask the question, has something like this happened before? You will get some form or fashion. But knowing my history as I do, and having come up in the civil rights movement in the early 50s and 60s, I recognize that one of the key components in understanding this whole thing that we call race in America was the letter that Dr. King wrote from the Birmingham jail. Now I want to share just a little bit of that with you, because I want you to understand that this is nothing new for us. When we think about justice in this country, we know that justice is not equal justice. It's not equal justice under the law for any other nationality or origin of people other than white males in this country. That's just being honest. Now, it doesn't mean that all white males behave in such a way that they act superior, but you think about it. When you think of the hierarchy of this country, you think about who you would put at the top of the ladder, who would be on the top rung of the ladder, and who would be on the bottom, if you had to label it that way. Everything in this country is designed and devised around one common denominator, and that is the white male. And the white male, particularly over age 60. You'll see that there is a thought process that they have about what is equal and what is fair and what is, what they demand, that they are superior to so many. So one of the things that I read in here that it says, when Dr. King wrote this from the Birmingham jail, and pardon me because I am reading it. So it says, we know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. Frankly, I have never yet engaged in a direct action movement that was well timed according to a timetable of those who have not suffered unduly from the disease of segregation. Now, we can call that segregation. We can call that that the disease of the LGBTQ community, for women's rights, voting right, abortion rights, all of those things. Now, when we start talking about those things, all you have to do is change the noun, and it will represent a different culture in our communities. It also says we must come to see with the distinguished jurist of yesterday that justice too long delayed is justice denied. We have waited for over 340 years. Now, this is in 1963. So we have waited still, only 404 years for equal justice under the law in this community. And it says, but when you have seen vicious mobs lynch your mothers and fathers at will and drown your sisters and brothers at whim, when you have seen hate-filled policemen curse, kick, brutalize, and even kill your Black brothers and sisters with impunity, when you see the vast majority of your 20 million Negro brothers smothering in airtight cage of poverty in the midst of an affluent society, when you suddenly find your tongue twisted and your speech stammering as you seek to explain to your 6-year-old daughter why you cannot go to a public amusement park. Daddy, why do white people treat colored people so mean? His daughter asked. When you're going across country and you can't stop and use a bathroom for fear of being lynched or beaten up or any of those things. So when I tell you that this is not new, we have gone through this in cycles before. It doesn't make it right, but it makes us aware. I tell people, don't get mad, get focused. If you feel that there is injustice done in your community, if you feel that there's an injustice done to you as an individual on your job, in your church, or any of those things, don't get mad, get focused, get active, become aware of those things. What this country needs more than anything is a stiff shot of forgiveness. And I wanted to leave us tonight with just one quick element. And I think I have a few minutes to add this. Marianne wrote a book called Illuminata, and it is a book of prayers, and it is my favorite book. It is a book that I keep with myself, keep on my shelf next to my bed all the time. And I pick this book up and I read a prayer from it every day. So I want to share this prayer for America that Marianne wrote, and this book was written, I know, see, 19, oh, come on, I can't find the date. Anyway, prayer for America. Dear God, we join in prayer to celebrate the nation and surrender its destiny to you. We give thanks in our hearts for the founding of this country. We give thanks for and bless the souls of those who came before us to found this nation, to nurture and save it. We ask that God's Spirit now fill our hearts with righteousness. May we play our parts in healing and in the healing of our country. May we be cleansed of all destructive thoughts. May judgment of others, bigotry, racism, and intolerance be washed clean from our hearts. May our minds be filled with the thoughts of God, His unconditional love, and His acceptance of all people. May our nation be given a new light, the sacred fire that once shone so bright from shore to shore. May we be repaired. May we be forgiven. May our children be blessed. May we be renewed. Dear God, please bless America. Amen. So as we go off into this week, this weekend, and this week coming up. And we're going into this Thanksgiving Day. Thanksgiving means different things to different people. But if you would listen to the word thanksgiving, give thanks for who you are, where you are, what you have the potential to give to this country, that you could possibly not have a better place to live. Give thanks for all those things that you are about to receive, the bounty that you are about to receive. If you cannot be if you can't be happy about where you are, get active, get involved. If you are not satisfied with the way things are, do something about it. Exercise your right. As John Lewis said, get in good trouble. Do the things that you need to do. The light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you. The presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, wherever I am, God is. And all is well. Thank you so much for joining me this evening, Sunday Evening Masterclass with Dr. Charlette, here on the New Thought Media Network. Have an awesome Thanksgiving. Blessings.
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.